Hey everyone, it is Nadia. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you have seen my previous LSAT video, welcome back. I have just been simply amazed with the response to that video. I never would have thought I would be able to help so many people, and I never would have thought I would be able to get 10,000 views on a video about a test. I'm really grateful for everyone that watched that video. I have gotten a bunch of comments, a bunch of Instagram DMs about my blind review process and how it kind of assisted me into breaking that 160-170 plateau. So I was asked to make another video about how to do that kind of more in depth. So that's what we're going to be doing today. In addition, I have my friend Graeme, who is the founder and CEO of LSAThacks, and he's going to be joining us to kind of give us his 2 cents on blind review and also to announce a special giveaway that we are having for my subscribers and my followers. So I'm really excited, and let's get into some review. So blind review is one of the most important aspects of studying for the LSAT. It really helps you hone in on problem areas, it helps you catch mistakes, it establishes a pattern with your mistakes, and it also familiarizes you with each question and each answer choice. So blind review is when you take an entire timed practice test, no distractions, no breaks, and then after you're done, you don't look at your score, you take an hour-long, 2-hour-long break, whatever you want, and then you come back to take basically the entire test again untimed. So when I would do blind review, I would take my practice test, and when I was taking it timed, I would flag any question, any answer choice that I was not 100% certain about. And obviously when you're taking a timed practice test, you can't really go in depth as much as you want to, which is why I would flag each question to know that it was something I had to go back to. So after my break, I would come back and I would start looking at all of the flagged questions. So I would have these 5 answer choices. I know that 4 of them are wrong, and I know that 1 of them is absolutely correct, and there's going to be a way to prove that this one answer choice is absolutely correct. So I would spend anywhere from 5 minutes to sometimes an entire hour on one question, just really pushing myself, trying to find either the flaw, the problem, the necessary assumption, whatever the question stem is, using that to find evidence in the stimulus to lead me to the right answer to a point where I'm 100% certain about it. But the reason why blind review is so important, one is so that you have unlimited time to really hone in on your problem spots, but also because it really familiarizes you with each answer choice. You'll be surprised, the more blind review you do, no matter how long it takes, you might see a question in your next practice test and you could be like, well, I remember this from blind review, and I remember what the problem was when I was blind reviewing it because I was doing it so in depth and so concentrated. So I now can do this timed practice test remembering what I learned from blind review. And I think that really pushing yourself and forcing yourself to take the time to realize a lot of your mistakes is where you are going to see a huge jump in a score increase, or breaking into that plateau and getting into the 160s or the 170s. I didn't start blind review as soon as I should have, and a lot of people were telling me about it, and I was like, why would I spend 7 hours a day working on a test that is not even timed? And I didn't realize how important it was, because you can do as many practice tests as you want, and that's great, but if you're not realizing your mistakes, then there's no point in taking practice test after practice test. It is better practice to take a practice test, do the blind review, realize your mistakes, and then go into your next practice test with that new knowledge that you have gained from doing blind review. So with blind review, just like with the actual LSAT, there should never be any guessing involved, ever. Guessing will become your worst enemy if it becomes a habit, and that is absolutely what you want to avoid. So let's say that you're taking a timed practice exam. You're on your last question of the LR section, and you're stuck between A and B. You don't really have evidence for either of them, but you're stuck, you're running out of time, so you choose A. Now let's say you didn't blind review, but then you're going back, you're looking at your scores, you see that last question where you chose A, even though you didn't have enough evidence for it, and you see that you got it right. So with that, you're just going to be happy. You're going to be like, oh, great, I got it right. I don't need to review it, because why would I review something when I got it right? You may completely forget that you honestly had no idea what you were doing and it was just a lucky guess. When you do things like that, you're never going to learn, which is why blind review is so important with this entire exam. So again, to correctly do blind review, you are going to be taking an entire timed practice test. You're going to be flagging or circling any questions that you're not 100% sure about. If you use LawHub by LSAT to take your practice test, I also recommend using the highlighters on the answer choices to remember, like when you're blind reviewing, what your thought process was when you were doing the timed exam. So either way, you're going to be flagging or circling any questions that you're not 100% sure about. You go back to all of those questions that you flagged, and the great thing about blind review is that it really forces you to sit with your answer and to sit with the rest of the answer choices. When you're doing this, it really makes you focus on all of the answer choices, and you should be able to establish a concrete reason why the correct answer choice is correct and why the 4 wrong answer choices are incorrect. So blind review really forces you to engage with every single answer choice with no time constraint. So it gives you unlimited time to really make those choices for yourself. And it also allows you to completely understand what your mistake was, how you could avoid making it again, and how you can use your previous mistakes to help you in your next practice test or when you're drilling. You should really be able to articulate every single answer choice, why it's wrong, why it's correct, and doing this will really bring you to the next level. It is the difference between average LSAT scores and 90 plus percentile scores. They are the ones that are doing this. They're putting in that insane amount of time to study and to review, and it's really what makes the difference between different scores on this exam. Sometimes when I was doing blind review, especially with the reading comp section, which was always my worst section, I would still be stuck or a little bit confused with some of the reading comp questions, and I couldn't really figure out how to solve it, even if I was at the computer doing one question for an hour. And that's fine, because it's the way that we learn, and we sometimes need to reach out for advice or help or just overall answer guidance. And I would often use websites like LSAThacks to kind of guide me in the right direction, to teach me before I would put all of my right answer choices and wrong answer choices into an Excel sheet. So I use the Excel sheet during blind review to establish my pattern and also to put colors on it like green, yellow, or red, where if I got an answer choice right during blind review, I would make sure that I completely understand it before putting it into that Excel sheet, and then I would label it green, which means that I got it right, I understand why, and I'm not going to make the same mistake again. When I would have a yellow answer choice, that would mean that I got it right during blind review, but I still want to review it again, and it's kind of on the cusp of green and red. When I had a red answer choice, that means that either I got it wrong during blind review and the timed practice test, or I got it right during blind review, but I was not absolutely sure about it. So then I would go to a website like LSAThacks or sometimes PowerScore to get that good explanation and make sure that I fully understand it so that I'm not making the same mistakes over and over again. So that actually leads us to the next part of this video, which I am super excited about. As I previously mentioned in this video and in my LSAT video, I loved using LSAThacks. It is one of the best free resources that I have found in terms of reviewing and in terms of learning. And since that last video, I have become friends with Graeme, the founder and CEO of LSAThacks, who is simply amazing. Like, he has explanations for almost every single LSAT you could want, and it's completely free. And I wanted to invite him onto the channel today to get his 2 cents on the blind review process. He is a 177 scorer. He is a well-established tutor, and I really wanted to have him answer some of your questions that you guys have asked in an expert type setting. So I am very, very excited to introduce my friend Graeme, and we are going to be jumping on Zoom right now. Hey Graeme, how are you?
Hey Nadia, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being here. You have been such a great resource for me when I was studying, and I always recommend your site to my students as well. I think I mentioned in the video earlier that I used your site during my blind review process, and it was super, super helpful, but I wish I started doing blind review a bit sooner. And so I guess I wanted to jump in with my first question being, when do you recommend that students start incorporating blind review into their studying?
So I think basically as soon as you start doing timed work, you should incorporate blind review because it's a tool that helps you with that. So I don't see any reason to delay. It's a process that lets you go deeper on the work that you're doing. So there's no reason to give that up. And I also should add that you should have some form of timed work throughout your studies. Even if you start with a lot of untimed work, I think if you have no exposure to what the LSAT actually is, then your regular studies aren't going to be so grounded in reality. And so you should do some timed stuff early and do blind review on top of that.
Absolutely. Time worked is super, super important. And I think that a lot of people think that if they take a bunch of timed practice tests and they don't blind review it, that they can just get away with doing that. But in general, how much time should someone be spending doing blind review in comparison to actual time PTs?
Yeah, so that's a bit of a tough question. The short answer is the goal is to review everything you're unsure about, because every little bit of uncertainty is an area that could trip you up and cause you to get a question wrong. And this can take a lot of time, possibly more time than it took to take the test. And so where I say that can be a tough question is, someone who's scoring 170 is naturally going to have less uncertainty than someone who's scoring 145 because they understand things better. So if I say review everything, then that's a much higher burden on someone who's scoring 145. So what should you do in practice? Well, to some extent it's necessary. You would expect more review if you have less understanding. That's just how it goes. But I would also say to focus a blind review on the questions that you feel like you might understand. So some questions are going to be so hard, it's just I don't know. And so I wouldn't do blind review there. I would review that later, figure that out. But the blind review would be for the stuff that you feel like, okay, I probably got this, or I could maybe get this, and just review that, and that'll cut it down a little bit.
Absolutely. 100% certainty is one of the most important aspects of the review process, I think. And, I think a lot of people try to do blind review and they're not really seeing results. But in general, how much can blind review really help an average student in terms of raising their score?
Yeah, so that's also a tough question because blind review is a tool. So the average student makes about a 10-point improvement on the LSAT. But most people watching this video will probably want more like a 20, 30-point improvement is what people usually want. And so that's obviously an exceptional result, and not everyone will get that. So it's not like you can just say, do blind review, and you're going to jump 20 points guaranteed. It is, however, a tool and a tool set that may let you get to those exceptional results. So it's more of like a necessary condition. People that make that kind of large improvement, they're kind of off the normal track. They're really able to examine their own thought patterns and modify their thought patterns. And blind review is what helps you do that because you're looking at something you feel like, well, I think it was this, but actually I'm a little uncertain. And then you're looking through it and you start to think, oh, well, maybe that thing that I thought, right after you just thought it, you're re-examining your own thought patterns and you're trying to shift them around. So if done well, then you could get up to those higher levels. But it's absolutely not a thing that you can just take the tool and do that because there's a whole lot that goes into that.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of people spend a lot of time doing blind review and they still may not be seeing as much improvement as they want. And so I wanted to ask, what errors have you seen, whether in your own students or just in general in the LSAT world, when people are reviewing or doing blind review?
Okay, so there's two different questions, because if it's errors when people are reviewing, one of the most common ones is actually just they don't blind review at all. I'm guessing a lot of people watching this will listen, but still maybe won't do it because it's super tempting to just finish a section and like immediately go check the answers. How did I do? And that is like still really common. So that's probably actually the number one error, even though it's like super basic. For advanced students, I think one error would be using explanations too much, which is actually funny because I write a whole bunch of explanations. But once you reach a certain point, you kind of have to think for yourself, and you have to really spend a lot of time examining things and making sure that you know it. And then you can check an explanation to see if you missed anything. And I guess one other thing actually too, this also falls kind of into the category of not doing blind review, but a lot of people just review the ones they got wrong. They don't review the ones that they got right, but they were a little unsure about. So obviously just doing blind review would fix this, but it's still really common. People always say to me, oh, I'm stuck between two answers and I always choose the wrong one. I'm like, well, did you really? Or are you just looking at the ones, like, are you forgetting all the ones where you were stuck and got it right? Just because it should be 50-50 if you're between two. And I think a lot of people just don't look at the ones that they got right and think, oh, great, got it.
Yeah, and I see that a lot of people also, when they get an answer choice right, even if they were uncertain about it during the timed exam, they won't even review that because they say, oh, I got it right, so I don't need to review it and I can move on, which is just not good practice in general.
Yeah.
But overall, do you have any advice for students that either want to start doing blind review or need a little bit of help with their process?
I would say kind of be humble about it and like really look for areas where you think there might be some uncertainty, because it's very important on the LSAT when you're doing the real-time thing to be able to distinguish between I might have this and I for sure have this, or I for sure don't have this, and like how accurate you are on those things is itself a skill. So that's one of the things you should be trying to like tailor stuff for when you're doing blind review. And I think this also like carries over into good attitudes, that like if you can say to yourself like and focus on what you still don't understand, that's how you make improvements. The people who I see who say like, oh, you know, like I understand things but I have a time issue, or I understand things but it's not translating into a score or help, those are the people I tend to see who get stalled. It's kind of like a self-esteem boost if you say, oh, I understand this, but like unless you're scoring a 180, there is stuff you don't understand. And if you're getting like a 157, there's lots of stuff that you don't understand. I would venture to say you understand almost nothing perfectly at that level. So you really want to be reviewing lots of things, including questions you're getting right, including answers that you look at and you're like, well, I don't think that's it, but I don't know what it means. You need to know what that means because that might matter for some other question down the road.
Absolutely. And you know, when I was doing blind review, I would use a bunch of your explanations on LSAThacks whenever I was super stuck, and it was really amazing and super helpful. And I know that you recently have released an LSAT prep course in addition to all those free resources that you have. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that course entails and how it may help students?
Sure. So I have two. One is like the regular course and one are the mastery seminars. And they're sort of distinguished by the level that you're at. And so if you are scoring, say, below 160 or you haven't taken a course before, I usually recommend the course. If you're above 160 or if you're like above 155 and have taken a course that covers the basics, then it'd be the mastery seminars. And the differences are, in the course, it's kind of like a broad overview. I go over everything in detail, teaching the fundamentals, and it just kind of teaches you everything you need to know about the LSAT. It's all online recorded, so you can do it on your own time. They come with a satisfaction guarantee, and they use tests 60 to 66 mostly, so that like it's reasonably recent, but you're not burning a bunch of prep tests to do it. And then the mastery seminars are, I kind of assume that you know the basics, so they go at a faster pace. And that's not super common in a lot of prep courses which teach broad base. So somebody who already knows the basics and just wants like concise tips for like how more advanced people do stuff, that's what that's aimed at. I actually like timed myself doing questions, wrote down notes as I did the questions, because there's a lot of stuff you ignore when you're scoring at a high level. So I tried to actually say like, what am I focusing on and what am I not looking at, and teach that and teach people how to hone in on the specific stuff in that way. So and those are also like much shorter. Like logic games and reading comprehension are only 5 hours each. They're meant to be applied immediately super quick and something you can keep coming back to and rewatch, but that's like you're not gonna have to go through 60 hours just to get the tips that you need.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds amazing. And, we're actually both super, super excited to announce that we are going to be doing a giveaway for 2 of these courses. And Graeme, if you would like to explain how they could enter and the logistics of it all.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm super excited to be announcing this today. So basically, we're giving away 2, like Nadia said, and you get your choice of either the master seminars or the course, depending on your level. And the way you enter, it's super simple. You just go to the links below this video. There will be a link for Nadia's Instagram page, LSAThacks Instagram page, and then you just have to follow both of those. And then Nadia will have an Instagram post. You just have to leave a comment there, and that's 1 entry. That's all you have to do. Follow both accounts, leave a comment on the post. You're in the contest. And there's a second way to enter. I also have on my site a free email course. This is basically like a 5-part series that teaches you about all the different parts of the LSAT. It's super comprehensive, completely free. There's a link for that below the video. If you sign up through that link, you will also get an additional bonus entry. And the contest runs for a week, I believe. It ends on Saturday.
So today we are going to have 7 days for you guys to enter. It is going to end on Saturday, March 27th. And so if you have your entries in by then, you will be good to go and you'll be in the running for one of these 2 amazing courses. Thank you, Graeme, for that. I'm sure that everyone is really, really excited to start learning with LSAThacks. And again, Graeme, thank you so much for your time. It has been great, and I'm sure that we're going to be seeing more of you on the channel. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited for people to get into blind review and for some people to win the giveaway.
So we are back. I hope that you guys enjoyed some of Graeme's insight. He is super, super knowledgeable about this exam, and he's an expert in my eyes. So I'm really glad that we were able to have him here to give you guys some tips and advice about blind review and the LSAT in general. Again, we're super, super excited for this giveaway, and if you would like to enter, read the description. Both Graeme and my Instagrams are linked there. And again, my comments are completely open, my DMs are open. If you have any questions about LSAT related stuff, law school admissions, or anything of this sort. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have any suggestions or ideas for what you would like to see in the future. And with that, see you later, everyone.